Hi, I am Alfonso Muchacho and I am not a YouTuber, I'm a producer with a video camera. And today, what I'm going to talk about is probably the thing that I'm requested the most to talk about, and that's how to get your track ready for the mastering process. What I mean by this isn't the production of the track, well, it kind of is, but what your track should sound like before you send it off to a mastering engineer. The settings you should use, yeah, kind of, but more how a track should sound before you send it off. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a track that I've made recently. I'm going to show you the before I sent it, and what it came back sounding as. Now, I haven't seen any other producers show this kind of stuff. Maybe they have and I've missed it, or maybe they're trying to keep their secrets, or they're embarrassed or something, I don't know. I've never seen a video explaining this kind of thing. So I'm going to show you the track that I sent to the mastering engineer, and then I'm going to show you what it sounded like when it came back and give you an idea of the kind of finished product that my track was before mastering, so you can hear what mastering added and what it didn't. So as I explained at the top here, you have the track that I sent for mastering, and I'll bring up my handy Ozone Insight so you can see kind of the levels, that kind of thing. So this is what it sounds like. Now, of course, I've got that turned right the way down. I've got loads of headroom in here for the mastering engineer to work with. I didn't export it hitting at 0. I exported it so that they had a bit of headroom to work with. And I've also turned it up a little bit just so you can hear it. And this is the version that I got back. Now, obviously, the first thing is, yes, it's a lot louder. It was always going to be a lot louder. So it's a really hot master. It's come back at about -8 LUFS, which is about the limit of kind of the modern sound, I think. Any more than that and you're kind of losing a lot. But I mixed it loud, so it was very easy, I think, to get to that kind of loudness, to get to that kind of presence without losing too many dynamics. So I'm going to go back and forth between my original and the mastered version. I'll turn the original up a bit so it kind of competes with the mastered version, so it doesn't sound too different. So it's worth saying you should always try to get someone else to master your music. I know a lot of you are broke, I know that, but in an ideal scenario you'd get someone else to do it. I do mastering for other people, but what you're paying for, not just the equipment and expertise, you're really paying for another set of ears to listen to a track with fresh ears and not be emotionally tied to any of the decisions. So a mastering engineer could easily come into this track and take something out that was annoying them that I would never want to let go of. So that's the first point. The second point I wanted to kind of drive home here is it doesn't sound all that different. Now, looking at the track again, obviously it is louder, but it doesn't sound majorly different, and that's not because they haven't done a good job. This is a very well-known, respected mastering engineer that's been in the game a long time. They know what they're doing. But the reason why it doesn't sound that much different is because I've done such a good job with my final mixdown, and I've made the mastering engineer's job very easy. The ideal scenario is you hand it over to the mastering engineer and there's nothing else for them to do other than make it a bit louder. So what did the mastering engineer actually do to my track? And I purposely asked them in this case what adjustments they made. They said they EQ'd off the very lowest end, and this is something that is kind of done to taste, and maybe with their monitoring setup they could hear something that I couldn't. They just EQ'd off something around about 27 Hertz, something really low down. The other thing they did was add some saturation to bring out some of the really high end, so some of that air, some of the sizzle right at the top. I tend to like my mixes to be quite dark, so the good thing that a mastering engineer will do for me is they will add a little bit maybe more more of that high end in that I like to take out. Take a listen. Now my original here sounds quite dull compared to the finished master. This will always be the case because of the limiting that's been put into place at the final stages. Will bring all the lower volume content of the track up, but they've also really clearly added a lot of extra high end to the track, and they said they used saturation, some outboard saturation, just to give it a little bit of sizzle. So what does this all mean? It means you should give your mastering engineer the easiest job possible. You want them to be adding the final 5% to your track, not the final 25%. If they're adding the final 25%, it means you haven't done your job and you're expecting too much of them. You need to get your mixing right before you send it off for mastering. If you're not confident in your mix down, work on it some more. And if you're still not confident in it, send it off to someone who will do mixing and mastering all in one product, such as myself. And I know it's a cliche, but you can't fix a bad mix in the mastering stage. It's just not possible. Even the best mastering engineer on the planet can only do so much. And to be honest, the best mastering engineer on the planet will probably send your track back if it doesn't sound well mixed. So I guess the whole point of this video was just to dispel any myths around how much extra mastering adds. It does add an extra something to your track. Undoubtedly it does. That's why people use mastering engineers. However, it doesn't radically alter a track. I remember when I first got into producing, I was always obsessed with what a producer was using on their mastering chain, or what mastering house they were sending it to. Like, what is it that gets it sounding so good? And I was kind of disappointed when I heard tracks being made kind of in tutorials and in studios with other producers, and I realized, wow, their tracks actually sound really good, and the mastering is not doing a whole lot. And I sent my very first track I sent off to a professional mastering engineer. It came back, and I realized it does sound better, but it doesn't sound like all those tracks that I really like. And it's obvious. It's in the mix down. It's in your production. It's in putting the hard work in before you send it to a mastering engineer. And I think you get there with time and practice. If you want to take a bit of a shortcut, you can get people to mix your track for you. And I'm fully on board with people doing this, because as an artist, you're kind of a one-man, all-woman band. If you're in a rock group and you're a drummer, all you got to worry about is the drums. That's all you got to worry about. But in electronic music, you've got to do everything. You've got to worry about the drums, you've got to worry about the melody, you've got to worry about the vocals, you've got to worry about the chords, the arrangement, the mix down, the mastering. It's too much. It's okay to say, I'm not very good at mixing, or I'm not very good at mastering, I'm going to get someone else to do it. I really think that's a smart way to go. I think we try and do too much as electronic music producers, all of ourselves. And that's kind of the attraction for me, is I have complete control over every element all the way through the production stage, and the very final track that's released. All of it is my work, and that's great, but sometimes you need to get a bit real and think, hang on, maybe I'll get someone else to take a look at this, get another opinion, another set of ears on it. So if you're struggling with your mix downs, and no matter what you do it doesn't sound right, get someone to mix it for you and get feedback from that person. So when they've mixed it for you and when they've mastered it for you, get feedback. What did they do? What do I need to change next time? What mistakes did I make? That kind of thing. It's really, really helpful to get feedback from someone who really knows what they're doing.